Hey guys, so 50 people have been killed today in a suicide bomb blast in northeastern Mubi in Nigeria. They believe it was Boko Haram, so an Islamic terrorist, and you probably haven't even heard of this, right? The media focuses on these recent allegations and all this other stuff, whereas that stuff's interesting and has some importance and stuff, but at the same time, this gets like a few peeps and mentions, right? And it's like these types of attacks happen in these countries all the time. Like not long ago, 300 people in Somalia died, right? And yes, the media does cover these things, like they make stories about them and stuff, but clearly they're not kept in the 24-hour news cycle for as long as some like Trump eating 2 scoops of ice cream gets, right? Like that gets way more coverage than this does, right? It's like stupid shit like that. And they do this like for a reason, right? And in my opinion, it's because like when you look at these attacks over here and they're all happening to Muslims, they're essentially Boko Haram killing other Muslims. They went into a mosque, blew it up, right? So the typical answer in Western countries for why there's radical Islam and all this stuff is because we're racist, we don't give them enough, we don't put in enough movies, we're bombing them in their countries, etc., right? And so they're like, this has happened because it's your fault. But there's a lot of examples across the fucking ocean in other countries that you can see that they're all the same faith, they're all the same religion, and this is still happening. It's happening in much greater numbers. So that would lead you to believe that maybe it has less to do with racism, less to do with, poverty, etc., and more to do with ideology and, a belief system and stuff, right? So, like, the media, this is, in my opinion, why they don't really cover this that much. They can't really use it either. They can't use it to push their agenda for gun control, etc. Because, if he uses a car, they're just going to say, like, oh, it has nothing to do with Islam. This guy was just this or that. And, they'll try to diminish it as much as possible. But if he does it with a gun, then they'll be like, okay, we need gun control. If he gets radicalized online, they're like, okay, we need to censor the internet, blah, blah, blah. So it's these attacks that happen in other countries just are not, the media can't use them. So all the people who are like, oh, we care about immigrants, or we care about refugees, we care about Muslims, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just all a load of crap. Like, if they did, they would be covering this more. They would care more about this. But they obviously don't. This is what a lot of globalists and stuff, they're just using these people as pawns, right? They're using us as pawns, them as pawns. You don't have to hate these immigrants that they're being brought in. But it's like they're just being brought in essentially to, increase the workforce, the low skilled workforce, and then it lowers the wages for everybody, and it doesn't actually help people by massively increasing the population, right? That makes no sense. Like, there is only a finite amount of things on the planet, so for you to logically assume that in your mind that, hey, let's bring in tons of people, let's bring in more and more and more, where we'll only have a finite amount of things, and this way we'll have even more. It's like, no, like, that's not necessarily a good thing, good idea, right? Like, the free market can create new things and new wealth that didn't exist before, but there is an extent, and if you're not bringing in people who are going to invent these things, and you're bringing in low-skilled labor instead, then yeah, the market's not going to keep up, right? Because these low-skilled laborers, that's all they can do. So, and they're also not covering it because, yeah, they don't want to make you worried that some of these people are more likely to commit terrorist attacks. right? Because if they're happening all the times in these countries and nobody's really hearing about it, they only hear about it every so often when it happens to Western countries. So they think like, oh, it's not that bad. Let's compare it to white nationalists. See, in America, white nationalists, you got to fear them more. They're more of a threat, blah, blah, blah. But it's like if you look on a global scale, 30,000, like thousands of people have been killed from Islam, specifically Islamic terrorism in the past like 10 years. So it's a much bigger threat. But the media and all these people would try to lead you to believe that it isn't. And I'm not saying all Muslims are bad and anything like that, but the religion itself does have a propensity to create or have terrorists come out of it, right? You're not seeing a bunch of Buddhists and Hindu terrorists. People are going to bring up the Burmese or whatever, these Buddhist terrorists, but they're not going in other countries and blowing up people in other countries. They're not in America blowing themselves up. They're not in other countries like that. They're not blowing up other Buddhists, right? So it's like clearly the media just tries to brush this stuff off as much as possible. And this we need to bring more attention to these things for the benefit of these people and the benefit of us, because, more attention needs to be brought to this for their sake, because then more people will be willing to, try to do something about Islamic terrorism or ramp up efforts to wipe them out, etc. Whereas if they're just kind of hiding the problem, then nothing is going to get done about it. And then these people are not going to help, and then we're going to be naive and stupid and ignorant, and we're just going to bring a lot of those people into our country who could potentially be terrorists. I'm not saying all of them are terrorists, but even Trudeau and in the UK and all these different countries, they're saying that they want to reintegrate ISIS members and extremists. So it's like it's like they don't even care about vetting. That's pretty much they're admitting that it's like, yeah, we can't vet them. So once ISIS and stuff comes in through the floodgates that they will inevitably get in through, we're just gonna be like, oh well, we knew they were here, and we're just gonna reintegrate them and help them come back, and hopefully they don't fucking blow us up. And we'll try not to be racist and try to give them a lot of shit. And hopefully they'll, hopefully we appease them, right? And it's like it's so ridiculous. Like, when in history have humans been so stupid to have an enemy that literally wants to kill you? And I'm not saying this is all Muslim. I'm just saying the extremists, the radical Islamic terrorists, they do want to kill you, and then you want to bring them back in your country and reintegrate them and just, pray that they don't. It's just stupidity. But these people in Nigeria do need our support, and we do need to, blast this more. And people need to remember it, like they remember an attack that happens in Western countries, right? This should be you should be able to remember this, because it is just as big or more of a loss of life, right? So, lots of people died. Like, this should be a bigger impact, but it's not. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day.